Welcome to this video on the Trackwrestling Matside controller and scoring a college match. I'm going to get started here by selecting my mat. I'm going to go to mat 2, click on search, and you see that I have my bouts that are assigned to my mat. I'm almost always going to start at the top of the list, so I'm going to click bout 133, and that opens my match. So you'll see that I have a green wrestler and a red wrestler. If that's incorrect, the referee decides that those aren't the correct colors for these guys, I'd go ahead and change the drop down here from red to green, and that updates both wrestlers. You'll also notice this drop down, which is the positions. This position is going to drive what happens within these columns in terms of what choices I have. So right now they're both neutral and they both have a takedown. If I switch green to top, you'll see that now he has his near fall and red has his escape and reversal and etc. I'm going to switch them both back to neutral. Flip one to neutral, they both go to neutral because it's the beginning of my match. The comment section, I can go ahead and type maybe a referee ID number or some other comment that I might need to put in there. And if I click add comment, it gets attached there. And then one other setting before we get going, if I click over in the settings menu, or in the left menu on settings, I should say, this area right here, the setting that says would you like to separate riding time, this means I have it set to yes right now, so this means that I'm going to manually start and stop the riding time. I'm choosing to do that, but if I wanted Track Wrestling to do it based on me clicking a takedown or reversal and who's on top according to what I select, I could go ahead and switch that to no and hit save, and that would do that switching of the riding time for you. I'm going to leave it like this and do it manually, so I'm just going to go back, click match, bring me back to my match, and I'm going to go ahead and start the clock by clicking on the green button. I could stop it with the red button. A couple other ways that you can start and stop the clock. If you have a USB controller, one of our Track Wrestling controllers, you can use the start-stop switch there, or on your keyboard you can always use the down arrow, and that will start and stop the clock as well. Similar note here on the riding time, I could click these buttons to indicate who's in an advantage in riding time or if they're neutral, or I could use the USB controller, our Track Wrestling USB controller, and use the appropriate colored buttons there. Or again, I could use my keyboard arrows and use the left, the up, and the right arrow as well. So I'm going to say that red gets his takedown. I'm going to start the riding time for red and hit takedown for red. And you'll see that the score gets updated, the takedown gets added here, and then the riding time has started for red. I'm going to give him a 2-point near fall, and then there's going to be a reversal for green. So I'm going to switch the riding time. Green gets his riding time. You'll see that the clock starts counting down. I'll mark my reversal for green, and then stop the clock. So they went out of bounds, and then they come back, and there's actually a mistake here. This wasn't a reversal. This was actually an escape. So if I click on it, I can make some changes, and I have several options here. I'll start from the bottom. I can cancel that, and it just takes me back to my match page. I could insert something above this reversal, which maybe there's a penalty or something in there that I wanted to insert. I could delete the entry if there in fact wasn't any scoring, or I could use the delete all, and that would actually delete everything in terms of scoring out of this period. I could switch the entry or switch all of the entries, and that's relating to the color. So if I wanted to switch who had that reversal, which in this case wouldn't make sense, but I could do that. Or I could switch all the entries in a case where these guys were this guy was supposed to be green, this guy was supposed to be red, and I didn't switch it before the match like we did. That would switch all of those. So you can use that if that happens. I'm going to use the change entry. This was actually supposed to be an escape for green, so I go ahead and update. So now my match is accurate, and I can go ahead, the wrestlers come back, and we start the clock. But you'll also notice that the riding time is still going, even though we know that they're neutral because of this escape. So I can make these changes kind of on the fly. I don't need to stop the match to do this. That's where this blue notebook right here is going to come in to play. I'm going to click on that notebook, and you'll see that I have my riding time log here. And basically what this is a list of all the times that the position is changed to affect the riding time. And you'll notice that it starts at the bottom and works its way to the top. So my last change was that reversal that I had for green, and that put red on the bottom, which is why this is counting up. But that's not correct. We made that change. They're actually neutral, so I can come here, select neutral, and then now it changes, it stops the riding time, it takes it back to the point where it was when red was on top there before we got the escape. So that's a way to change your riding time, make sure that's all accurate before you, without having to stop the match or wait for a break. So that's a powerful tool, so make sure you know that's there. Practice with that to make sure you know how to do that. So I'm gonna click hide just because we're gonna get rid of that for now. And I'm gonna hit stop for just a sec, and now our match is stopped again. But I might have noticed that perhaps my timing is off. So I can change the time in several ways. I can use these black ticks to go down or up on the controller. I can highlight and change this number and hit set. I can also do the same if it's just the riding time that's being affected. I can go up or down with the riding time by 1 second with the ticks, or I could also highlight this as well and hit set. If this was supposed to be green's riding time, I could use the color button and that will change that as well. One other thing is this revert button. If I hit this, it's going to take me back to the last time I stopped the clock. So if I click revert, it's going to take me back to the last time that I stopped the clock. So I had a long time run off there. It's also going to update our riding time as well from there. So if these wrestlers are going again, and let's say that there's a stalling warning and I click it here, a couple of things you'll notice. The stalling actually gets added into our center column, but it also has a visual here so you can quickly see how many stalling warnings these guys have. If red gets a second and I click it here, you'll notice another icon, a visual gets added, the warning gets added here, and then the penalty point gets added for green. So that is a new feature for those of you that haven't seen that. Make sure that you know that's there. So a couple other items right here we want to cover. The injury time, if there's an injury, we can start the injury time and let that run. I can stop it here. I can also edit this in the same way that we did with the other clocks and make that change if we need to. Same is true for recovery time. This clock gets enlarged when I click on it, but if I want to bring the focus back to my match clock, I just click set and that comes back, and now my focus is back there. So let's move on through. Let's say that this match is moving on to the next period. I can click period or the next button and this or the next arrows, I'm sorry, and let's say that green defers and red chooses neutral. So I can just go ahead and make those changes right there. Now we're ready to start my second period, and I can start the clock and we can begin our second period. So we're going to quickly, let's say that this match ends in a pin. Let's even say that red got his takedown, and now the match is ending. So at any time we end a match, we always want to come over to result. As I'm in the left menu, I want to point out one quick thing. If I hit summary, this is going to show us an entire list of what's happened in our match. So if the referee comes over and says, I want to see what happened in the first period, or did green get an escape, or did red get a near fall, it's all here, it's timestamped, so you know when it happened in the match as well. So if I'm back on my match, I can go ahead, the match is done, whether it's a pin, a decision, whatever the match result might be. Anytime there's a result, click on result, and now you'll see that in this case, 6-2, red's leading, so our system's going to assume that he's the winner. If I want to change that, I can go ahead and change that easily. I could change the win type here if I wanted to, and I can make changes here. I'm going to say that this was a fall. Everything looks good, and I hit save result. Come back to my matches page, and I can go ahead and click my next bout, and we're ready to go with my next two wrestlers. We are going to cover just quickly the overtime situations that may arise. And so let's say in this match right here, we work all the way through, and we'll start the clock. There's maybe a takedown here and then a reversal here, and I'm not going to worry about riding time at this point. Could have left it 0-0, but this maybe is a situation where we had a couple of points there. I hit next. I'm going through my match, and now you see that I'm in my third period. This match is still 2-2, and if the time runs out and I hit next and the match is tied, you're going to see this warning. It says we're about to save the riding time accumulated in regulation and reset it for overtime. I'm going to click OK in this case, and that's fine. I click OK, and we can go ahead and start our overtime. So we go ahead and start the overtime. We can score it just like we normally do. If that period ends with nobody as the winner, I can go ahead and click next. select my choice, and I can go ahead and start that way. I would start my riding time at this point too. So one point to make right here too, at any time when I want to log riding time for this match, I can go ahead and click this pencil, and it's actually going to mark it in here. And that's probably not a good example, but let's say that my clock is running and red has some riding time, and now I stop it. If I click the pencil, it's going to log whatever riding time either wrestler has there. So that's always good to know. Usually at the end of a period you might do that. I forgot to mention it in the midst of the match, but I wanted to point that out. So this pencil is an important feature that you can use if you want to log your riding time at any point. So in this case, let's say that these wrestlers are still tied. I go to next, and this is going to say that I'm ready to start another round overtime. So there's no score after the sudden victory and the two tiebreakers, so I can go ahead. I'm going to start my next sudden victory. You see I'm back to 1 minute. I can start this clock, and let's say then that maybe red gets a quick takedown. So now red's ahead 4-2. Of course, that match is over. I come over to result. Red's the winner. If I needed to change my win type, I could. You'll notice that we have all of the overtime victory types in here. Our sudden victories 1 through 3, tiebreakers. If there's a riding time victory in one of those tiebreakers, and then also falls in both the sudden victory and the tiebreakers. You might not be able to see the tiebreakers there because of the way that this video is being shot, but all of your overtime victory types are there too as well. So be sure you know that those are there. It should get it automatically, but if it's not, you can always make those changes. If everything looks correct here, I can click Save Result, and then I'm on to score my next match. So I think that covers it. That is the video on how to score matches with a Track Wrestling Matside controller for college bouts.